Hello, this is Mr. Jared, and in this video tutorial, we are going to be continuing to work with the work planes and to draw this object. So this is actually a flagpole holder. So this would mount around some type of corner. Maybe some bolts would go through here or some screws into something, and then the actual pole that holds the flag goes in here. Okay. So this object, or this picture rather, is kind of hard to see because it is made out of cast iron. So these little dimples here are kind of examples of what a cast would look like. Casting is where you're melting metal and putting it into some type of mold. So it's very hard to see. What I can say here that the two most confusing things is that this little tiny corner over here, which is actually rounded, is the same measurement as this little tiny corner over here, and that is a fillet of 7/16, and the center point of that is right in the middle of this circle. So it is kind of hard to see that part. The second thing that's confusing for kids is how do we make this piece here? And that's actually going to be used or going to be created by using the work plane. Okay, so let's minimize this and let's open up SolidWorks or move this to a different screen and open up SolidWorks and create a new part. So in SolidWorks, I'm going to go up to File New, and I'm going to be creating a part file. And we are going to be changing your units over to inches if you haven't already. And then we can go ahead and sketch. And we're actually going to be sketching on the top plane here, the top plane. Okay. Now, if you're looking at our picture, it kind of shows that the origin is over on the right, and that it's going to be right on this corner here. So we're going to be drawing this piece, which is the more difficult thing to see, and then we're going to be extruding down to this thickness because the origin's right here on the top corner, and then we'll also be extruding this piece. Okay. So I'm drawing on the top plane, and I'm going to use my line tool here, and I'm just going to kind of move my mouse up above the origin, start up here, click, draw back through the origin, and then you're just going to kind of draw out and around. Okay, so I'm going to draw over here, same thing, and back to it. Okay, so let's reposition that. Then I'll hit escape, and now I want this curved end out here. So I'll go up to my arc tools, and I'm going to get the tangent arc, and I'm going to select one corner, move around, select the other corner, and if it only makes one side tangent, we need to select the arc, hold in shift, and select this line to make the other side tangent. Okay, notice I didn't click on the dot. I selected two lines. Now that means this line now is pointless. So let's go ahead and trim that line off. So I got the trim tool, trim to closest, and I'm going to trim that line off. Okay. So this thing can still move around like crazy. It can move up, it can move down, all sorts of different things. What we want to do is actually make this line and this line down here. So hold in shift and select both of them. We want to make them equal. Okay. We also want to make this center point and the origin straight across from one another. So hold in shift and select the center point and the origin, and we want to make them horizontal so they're lined up with one another. And then the last thing is this line can still move up and down. So we actually want to click on this line, hold in shift, and click our origin, and we want to set it to midpoint. So the middle of that line is always going to be on that origin. So that's how we added a whole bunch of relations to this. So now you can see it kind of moves symmetrically back and forth and everything. So now we're good to go. Okay. Since we have this rounded piece here, let's also round these corners while we're at it. So go up and get your fillet tool. And this is going to be 7/16. So you can just type in 7/16, or if you know that fraction or that decimal off the top of your head, you could also type that in. But I'm just going to let SolidWorks do the calculations for it. And for our corners, we want to select that little one, okay, and this little one. And it might give you this warning. You can just hit yes, and then the green check. Okay. So now we're all good. We can get off the fillet tool. Okay, we have that tiny little corner. And that curve might get a little bit bigger as we start to dimension some of this stuff. So from here, I'm going to get my dimension tool, and I'm going to select this outside piece. That is also 7/16, so 7/16, okay, to make it a little bit smaller. And then we need a line, so get your line tool. We're going to put a vertical line right about here, and we can hit escape. That line is actually representing this little piece here, so I'm just going to draw that line up here. And that's going to allow us to start moving out this way with our measurements. So that's going to be 3/8. Then we're going to use 1.5 to get back to here, and then we can use 2 to get back to here. Okay. So dimension tool, from the far right line to that little line we just drew, that is going to be 3/8. So 3/8. And then from that line we just drew into the center point of these curves. So zoom in, so you see the center point. Okay, that is going to be 1.5. Right? And then from the center point of this all the way to the center point of the fillet that we added, that measurement, and make sure you're going straight up and down. You don't want an angled measurement like this. It's going to be straight up and down. That measurement is going to be 2. It's probably going to shrink this thing a little bit. Okay? Now you can see going up and down, it still looks really fat. So what we need to do is actually go from the center point of one fillet to the center point of the other fillet, and we're going to make that 1.5 across. Now we've got a shape, and it's a decent size as well. Okay, so now we've got this pretty much positioned, but while we're on this view, we might as well put those holes in so we don't have to make another sketch. So go up and get your circle tool, select the center point, center point. So notice I'm selecting the center point of these fillets. I'm not just randomly drawing circles. And then all 3 of those circles are all the same size. So I hit escape on my keyboard to get off of the circle tool. I'm going to hold in shift and select all 3 circles and set them to equal. And then I can go ahead and I can dimension these. So dimensioning one of them, it says it is 3/8. Okay, and that will position all of them. So we are fully defined here. We can go ahead and move on. So go to the Features tab and hit Extrude. We're going to have 2 extrusions. So first, we're going to select this big piece in here, and we actually want to go down. So send that in reverse, and that's going to have a thickness of 3/8. So it's 3/8. Okay, green check. Hit Extrude again. You'll get this warning. So we're going to hit the drop down. There's our sketch. And this time we want the little piece back here. Okay, we also want to send that down, and the measurement down is actually a little bit of math that we have to do. So you see it says 7/8 from here down to here. Well, if this is 3/8 thick, 3 plus 7 is 10/8. So if you're thinking that through, you could reduce that in your head. You could say 1 2/8, and then reducing it again, that would be 1 1/4. So you could do all that math in your head, or once again, you could just let SolidWorks do this. Say you type in 10/8, and that will figure that out for you. Okay, so there's our basic shape. Now we need to actually create a plane. So here I would like you to go ahead and save your work, because this is where your computer sometimes messes up, because it is a lot of thinking for your computer to actually go ahead and make these planes. So we're going to be sketching first. So you can go to the Sketch tab, get the Sketch tool, and we actually want to sketch on the front plane. Okay, the front plane. The front plane goes right through the middle of this thing. So once you're sketching on the front plane, hit Control-8 on your keyboard. And here we're going to get the line tool and change this to construction. So it's a for construction line. And we'll click somewhere down here and then somewhere up in here. Okay. And you can hit escape. And then what we want to do is make sure that this line, so select the line and the origin, are coincident with one another. So it's connected to it. Then we can go ahead and actually dimension this. So from the top of the piece to the construction line, that is going to be 30 degrees, as you can see. And then from our origin out to this dot, and this time you want to make sure it's on an angle. So from the origin out to that dot is going to be 1 1/8. So you simply type in 1 space 1/8. Notice that space that's in there. You need that space, okay, or else it would be 11/8. So 1 1/8. Okay. Then we're going to hit the return button. That's up here in the top right. Return from sketch. So now we have a construction line that's going to help us create our plane. Go over to your Features tab, Reference Geometry and Plane. And here for our first reference, we're going to be selecting the line. The second reference, we're going to be selecting this dot at the very end. Okay, and you notice it connects the plane to that dot. So we'll hit the green check. Let's go to the Sketch tab and select Sketch. Now we're going to be sketching right on that plane. So since we can't see what we're doing, let's hit Control 8 so it's a better view. So now we're on the exact angle of the plane. And this is going to be two parts here. So first off, we're going to draw a circle right off of the origin, and that's going to be the outside of this tube. And then later we're going to draw the inside and cut it through. So first, this is the outside. So let's get the dimension tool and click on that circle. And we want to dimension this to be 1.5 inches, 1.5. Then we can go to Features and Extrude. And I'm going to rotate around so you can see. And here's a pretty cool feature that we haven't used yet. We want to reverse this. But you see, if you keep going and you make these measurements bigger and you just try to guess, see how it adds this extra material? You don't want that. You would have to cut that off. So instead of it being blind, we're going to change this to up to next. So it's going to go until it hits something and then stop. So how cool is that? It just wraps right around the piece. Okay, so that is up to next. So hit the green check. Now we have that big solid tube. We're going to get the sketch tool again and select your plane. Okay. You can hit Control 8 to rotate around. Draw another circle off of the origin. And this time we're going to dimension that circle. And that's going to be the inside hole. So the inside hole is 7/8. So 7/8. Okay. Then we'll go to the Features tab and hit Extrude Cut. And this time we want to change this to through all. So from blind to through all. And green check. And there is our tube. Okay. Now if you want to turn that plane off, you can. You can right click on it and hit hide. If you want to turn that sketch off, you can. You can right click on it and select hide. That's the little eyeball. And now we just need to go ahead and fill it. So on the Features tab, let's get the Fillet tool. And this is going to be 1/16. And there's a bunch of spots that we have to fill it. So just follow along with me here. You can click right on this flat face and it will do everything around that tube. We also want this small edge here and the big edge up at the top, and that's going to wrap the whole way around. We need to rotate around, and we also want this small edge. So notice we don't have anything underneath because we want that piece to be flat because that's what's going to connect to something else. So then we'll hit the green check. Now we can go ahead and change our material. And this is going to be gray cast iron, so you notice it's not on here. You're going to have to hit Edit Material. And you want to scroll down to the iron folder. You want to go to gray cast iron, not the SN, just normal gray cast iron. Hit Apply, close, and let's evaluate this. And you should be getting 1.34 pounds. If you got that, you can save this and you can move on to the next assignment. If you didn't, try to go back into one of your sketches or your extrusions and figure out where you went wrong. Problem solve, figure that thing out, get it all fixed up until this is complete and correct.